So greeting, welcome to our presentation today. So we are group 4 and our group consists of 6 members, which including me and the other members who are Phong, Ling, Chum, Lam, and I. So we're gonna present about implementation of generative artificial intelligence, or in short, which is called AI, in learning. And specifically, we're going to dig deeper in the analysis of teachers, pedagogy, readiness, and impact on student learning autonomy in Indonesia. Okay, so here's the table of contents, which include 4 parts, which will be divided for 6 members. The first part is the introduction part. The second one is methods. The third one is results and discussion, and the final one is the conclusion. As we have come through all the contents that we're going to provide you today with our presentation, now let's move right into the first part, which is the introduction, which will be presented by me. All right. So first thing first, we're going to discuss a little bit about the abstract of this article. So this quantitative study investigates how generative AI is implemented in Indonesian schools, focusing on teachers' AI-TPAC competence and its impact on student learning autonomy. So what is the method here? The method here is in order to research is a cross-sectional survey of 384 teachers across Indonesia using validated instruments to measure AI-TPAC and student autonomy. And AI-TPAC strongly predicts student autonomy. The beta value is equal 0.425, and also the p-value here is smaller than 0.001, explaining 61% of variance. And so what are the main challenges here for this method? Of course, it is about the infrastructure, the training, and technical support. And so, as at the end of this one, we'll come to the conclusion that successful AI integration requires teacher training, digital infrastructure, and institutional support. All right, and that's also the first part of the introduction that we're going to go through. And now let's move on to the second one, which is the arguments. So my first argument here for the introduction part is that maximizing learning outcome. And the first sub-argument is for the first sub-argument, the first premise is the integration of generative AI in education represents a paradigm shift that fundamentally transforms teaching and learning. The second premise is the emergence of AI tools such as ChatGPT and etc., personalized learning, automated content generation, and intelligent tutoring. So therefore, successful integration depends critically on teachers' competency to incorporate AI tools into pedagogy. And as you can see underneath is the part from the article that we have given you right here through the image. And let's come to this next sub-argument. For the first premise of the second argument is that the TPAC framework emphasizes the intersection of technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge. And for the second premise, AI TPAC extends TPAC to include AI literacy, ethical AI usage, and machine learning understanding. Therefore, we come to the conclusion, teachers must develop AI-specific competencies to enhance pedagogical practices effectively. And yeah, we also clip the image, the text that we got it from the article beneath. Okay, so the third one and the final argument, sub-argument, for the first big argument, maximizing learning outcome. The first premise pointing out that learning autonomy is a critical outcome of AI-enhanced learning, while the next premise is that enhanced autonomy via personalized feedback and adaptive support. And the last premise for this sub-argument is that the relationship between AI integration and learning autonomy is mediated by teacher competencies, institutional support, and student digital literacy. Therefore, teacher readiness and institutional support are essential to improve learning autonomy. As of this, we come to the fourth sub-argument. For Indonesia has geographic and disparities affecting technology access. The first premise of this argument. The second one is national policy mandates AI coding in schools to improve digital literacy. And the third one, urban teachers often have higher digital competencies while rural teachers face resource gaps. Therefore, policy and planning must account for regional disparity, widening educational inequality. As you may have known or not, there are several disparities between rural areas and urban areas everywhere in Southeast Asia country, or maybe in other places too in the world. All right, so as of this, we came to the main argument. The premises are the fourth conclusion of the sub-argument previously. And so by that, we come to the conclusion. AI integration in Indonesian education must combine teacher development, infrastructure support, and equitable policies to maximize learning outcomes. Okay, so now let's come to the second part, which is the methods. And now we're going to analyze about the second argument, which is about strong empirical evidence. So here we have this first argument, and the first premise is a quantitative cross-sectional survey of 384 teachers across Indonesia was conducted using stratified random sampling. The second premise, instruments included AIT-PAC scale about 39 items and SDLRS adapted for AI learning context up to about 30 items. And the third premise, data collection was online and paper-based to accommodate technological access disparities. Therefore, the study design is appropriate to examine the relationship between teachers' AIT-PAC, readiness, and student learning autonomy. As you have already seen and familiar with the image that clipped beneath the text. Okay, so moving on to the second sub-argument for this part. The first one is statistical analysis include descriptive stats, correlation, ANOVA, and hierarchical multiple regression. The second premise is demographic variables were controlled to isolate AIT-PAC effects. Therefore, the analysis can reliably identify predictors of student learning autonomy. And yes, so we come to the main argument here. The first premise, which is the first sub-argument conclusion. Study design ensure representative sampling and valid measurement of AIT-PAC and learning autonomy. The second premise, statistical analysis allows reliable assessment of AIT-PAC impact on autonomy. Therefore, the study provides strong empirical evidence on the relationship between teachers' AI readiness and student learning autonomy in Indonesia. As of it, we'll now come to the third part of results and discussion.
Thank you, Kai. Okay, so let's dig into the results and discussion. Let's come to the first argument here. As you can see in the table 1, the demographic characteristics of participants, the sub-argument 1 is about the gender. The first premise is the study reports that the sample is predominantly female with 62%, and the second premise is the table confirms did squid 38 female participants, squid is also 62%. Therefore, the gender profile represents the typical teacher population. Let's come to the next one. The sub-argument 2 is about the age group. The first premise is the study states that most teachers are aged 31 to 40 years, and the table also lists 156 teachers in this age group. Therefore, the age distribution reflects common teacher demographics. And the sub-argument 3 is about the teaching experience. The first premise is the study indicates that most participants have 5 to 10 years of experience, and the second premise is about the table confirms this with 134 teachers, which is about 34.9%. Therefore, the experience profile matches typical teaching patterns. And let's come to the next one. The sub-argument 4 about the education level. The first premise is the study state that more teachers hold bachelor and master's degrees, and the second premise is the table confirms 51.6% bachelor's and 43.5% master's holders. Therefore, the qualification profile aligns with national standards. And the sub-argument 5 is about the geographic location. The premises 1 is about the study reports strong urban and suburban representation, and the second premise is about the table list 40.6% urban and 32% suburban teachers. Therefore, the geographic spread reflects typical teacher distribution. And all of this lead to the main argument. The premise here is the sample is representative across gender, age, teaching experience, educational qualifications, and geographic location. Therefore, the sample is representative of Indonesian teachers and support valid generalization of the study findings. And let's come to the argument 2, which you also can see about the table 2, the teacher's pedagogical readiness analysis arguments. So sub-argument 1, we have the first premise about the content knowledge demonstrating the highest mean score, as you can see in the table. And the second premise is pedagogical knowledge with the mean is 4.18, SD 1.72, and pedagogical content knowledge with the mean is about 4.12, and SD is 76. Therefore, the teacher exhibits strong foundational knowledge in the content and pedagogy. And the sub-argument 2, the first premise is the technology-related competencies and had considerably lower scores. The second premise is the technological knowledge received a moderate rating, with the mean is about 3.42, the SD is about 0.89, and the third premise is about the technological content knowledge. As you can see in the table, and the final one is the technological pedagogical knowledge with the data from the table, as you can see. Therefore, the teachers demonstrate weaker technological competencies compared to their pedagogical ones. And the sub-argument 3, you can see in the table that the first premise report notes that pedagogical content knowledge with the mean is about 4.12 and the SD about 0.76. And the second premise is about the table 2 confirm this validating basically, as you can see, is 4.12. Therefore, teachers demonstrate strong pedagogical content knowledge. And the sub-argument 4, the premise 1 is already reliability coefficients exceeded 0.79, and the second premise is AI track integration showing excellent internal consistencies. Therefore, the instrument reliably measures the competencies assessed. So all of this lead to the main argument. We have the first premise: teachers exhibit strong foundational knowledge in content and pedagogy, and the second premise is about the teachers demonstrate weaker technological competency compared to their pedagogical ones. And the third premise is about the teachers demonstrate strong pedagogical content knowledge. And the final one, the premise 4, is the instrument reliably measures the competency assessed. Therefore, the overall pattern suggests a readiness gap where pedagogical strengths contrast with the technological and AI integration weaknesses. So all of the arguments above have passed the proper form test and true premise test based on the data in the table, as you can see. The next one, the argument one, next one, let's come to Chum.
Okay, to continue the results and discussion part, we're gonna move on to the comprehensive impact of AI-backed competencies on learning autonomy. First of all, we have the first argument about student learning autonomy analysis. The main argument is about students demonstrate a high level of learning autonomy, particularly in the resource of utilization. We have the first premise is a highest mean score of resource utilization marks equal 3.83, SD equal 0.73, followed by self-management marks equal 3.78 and SD equal 0.76. So basically this premise passes the proper form test because this is all of this is the direct statistical data from the table 3. So let's move on to premise 2. The lowest mean score is self-monitoring with 3.52, SD equal 0.88, indicate challenges in checking and assessing learning progress. So this is also the direct statistical data from table 3, so that this premise also passes the true proper form test. Therefore, students generally exhibit high learning autonomy but need improvement in self-monitoring skills. So all of this pass the proper form test. The conclusion have the high mean values on the scale lead to the high proficiency lowest M. So that area for improvement. Let's move on the second argument. AI-backed integration has the strongest and most positive correlation with student learning autonomy. So the main argument here is synthesis of the strength. So first, premise 1 is about AI-backed integration shows the strongest correlation with R value equal by 0.69 and P value is smaller than 0.01. So this premise passes the true proper form test because it is the direct statistical data from table 4. So let's move on the premise 2. Technological pedagogical knowledge as known as TPK with R value equal by 0.62 and pedagogical content knowledge as known as PCK with R value equal 0.61 follow as the next strongest correlates. So in this premise, it also passes the proper form test because it's also the direct statistical data from table 2. So therefore, AI-backed integration, TPK and PCK are the factors with the strongest relationship to student learning autonomy. So this conclusion is inductive inference, or R values are positive and significant, lead to widespread relationships exist so that it passed the proper form test. So we're gonna have the third argument, and it's about the coherence of TPAC framework. First of all, we have the sub-argument about establishing evidence for the theoretical relationships. So for the first premise, strong correlation between pedagogical knowledge and pedagogical content knowledge have the R value equal 0.84 and P value smaller than 0.01. So let's move on the premise 2, a strong correlation between the CK and the PCK. So we can, as you can see from the screen, that they are all the direct statistical data from the table 4. So these two premise pass the proper form test. Therefore, high correlations exist among theoretically related knowledge components. So this conclusion is a deductive inference, which is statistical data aligns with your theoretical prediction, and they are confirmed, so that this conclusion passes the proper form test. Besides the sub-argument, we need to have main argument about confirming coherence, and the first premise is about high correlations exist among theoretically related knowledge components, and this premise passes through proper form test because it was established by sub-argument. So move on to the next premise is about the TPAC framework defines PCK as the intersection of PK and CK. Well, theoretical background. So this premise accepted the TPAC theory so that it passes the proper form test. And you can see the information from the paper on the screen. So therefore, these findings support the theoretical coherence of the TPAC framework, and this conclusion is a deductive inference. It also have the statistical data aligns with the theoretical prediction, so that they are its theory is confirmed, so that it passes the proper form test. Okay. And now we are going to move on to the last argument. It's about the foundational importance of technological competencies. We have sub-argument about establishing evidence for AI integration. As you can see from the screen, there are the information about technological knowledge strongly correlates with AI TPAC integration with R value equal 0.78 and P value smaller than 0.01. So this so we have the second premise is about TK also strongly correlates with the technological pedagogical knowledge with R value equal 0.72 and a p value smaller than 0.01. And these two premises are the direct statistical data from the paper, so that they pass the proper form test. Therefore, TK is strongly related to both overall AI generation and foundational TPK knowledge. We also have the main argument about interpreting implications. So on the first premise, we have TK strongly correlates with the advanced skill of AI TPAC integration. This premise passes the proper form test because it's the direct statistical data. And the next premise is AI integration represent a complex, advanced pedagogical skill, which is the background knowledge. This premise also passed the proper form test because it has the common understanding in the field. So as you can see from the screen, the information about the TK and the AI integration. Therefore, these correlation patterns indicate the foundation importance of basic technological competencies for successful AI integration. So this conclusion also passed the proper form test because it's an inductive inference which strongly link between a basic competency and a advanced skill, implies the basic skill is in prerequisite foundation. That's the end of my.
Okay, so let's move to my part today. Okay, so now I'm going to share with you about two main part in the article. The first part here is a multiple regression analysis. For this part, I have the first main argument. This is a significant differences between teaching experience groups. As you can see on the evidence on the screen, the full model explains 61.2% of the variance in learning autonomy. And there is a large percentage of explained variance. As you can see, the value here, coupled with the high statistical significance, indicate a strong relationship. Therefore, the full model indicates a strong predictive relationship between teacher and IT pack competencies and student incomes. For the second main argument, I have some sub-argument to prove this argument. For this sub-argument, the AI TPAC integration emerged as the strongest predictors. As you can see on the beta value here, AI TPAC integration has the highest value, which is 0.425, followed by technological pedagogical knowledge, follow with the value of 0.298, and the last one is the pedagogical knowledge, which is the value whose value is 0.281. Therefore, AI TPAC integration is a strongest predictor, followed by technological pedagogical knowledge and pedagogical knowledge. From the sub-argument, we have the full side of this main argument. AI-type integration is a strong predictor, followed by technological pedagogical knowledge and pedagogical knowledge. And the second premise, AI-type integration represents the effective integration of AI tools, which is a more specific and advanced competency than general technological or pedagogical competencies. Therefore, these findings suggest that teachers' ability to effectively integrate AI tools into their pedagogical practices has the greatest impact on student learning autonomy beyond the influence of general technological or pedagogical competencies. Mm. For the third main argument, we are going to talk about adaptability and the importance of IT integration. For the sub-argument, all predictor variables demonstrated the significant contribution to the model. Variance inflation factors, as you can see on the evidence on the board, range from 1.89 to 2.78. VIF values below the common threshold indicate acceptable levels of multicollinearity. Therefore, all greater variable demonstrated significant contribution to the model with acceptable levels of multicollinearity. We have the first premises here. All predictor variables demonstrated significant contribution to the model. As you can see, I have just mentioned from the sub-argument, a second premises here is a standard like beta coefficient reveals the relative importance of different competency areas. And the last one, technological integration components, including AI TPAC integration, TPK, and TK, as you can see on the left of the screen, show stronger standardized beta coefficients than content-focused component, including CK, PK on the right of the board. Therefore, the standardized beta coefficients reveal the relative importance of different competency areas, with technology integration components, AI TPAC integration, TPK, TK showing stronger effects than content-focused component, which are CK and PCK. For the second one, we are going to talk about group comparisons by teaching experience. For the first main argument, the article shows significant differences between teaching experience groups. This comparison is conducted through ANOVA, and from this conduction, ANOVA result reveals some significant group differences for AI TPAC integration and learning autonomy, as you can see the evidence on the board. Therefore, ANOVA results reveals significant group differences for both AI TPAC integration and learning autonomy across teaching experience groups. For the second argument, we have sub-argument here, as you can see. Please look at the first two values as we are going to talk, as I'm going to mention in this argument. Teacher with less than 5 years of experience demonstrated the highest levels of AI TPAC integrations. As you can see, the mean AI TPAC means value at 3.51 and the SD value here is 0.87, whereas those with more than 20 years of experience show the lowest level, which respectively 2.89 and 1.05. Therefore, there is a pattern where the newest teachers less than 5 years have the highest TPAC integration, and the most experienced teacher more than 20 years have the lowest. From the sub-argument, we have two premises for this main argument. For the first premises, I have just mentioned from the sub-argument, and the second premises, younger and newer teachers are generally more adaptable and willing to adopt emerging technologies compared to highly experienced teachers who may be set in traditional methods. Therefore, newer teachers may be more adaptable to emerging technologies, whereas experienced teachers may face greater challenges in adopting novel pedagogical approaches. For the last main argument, we are going to talk about implications for professional development. For the sub-argument, the articles use the post-hoc analysis using Turkey HSD, and this result reveals significant differences between newer teachers and more experienced teachers. Therefore, there is a pattern whether the newest teachers have the highest TPAC integration and the most experienced teacher have the lowest. From the sub-argument, we have the full insight of this main argument. And the first one, post-hoc analysis using Turkey HSD reveals significant differences between newer teachers and more experienced teachers. And this finding had important implication for professional development programs, suggesting the need for differentiated approaches based on career stages and prior experience with technology integrations. As you can see from the board here, therefore, there is a need for differentiated professional development approaches based on career stages and prior experience with technology integrations. For the true premises test and proper form test, they all of the things that I have just shared with you are passes these two tests because they are based on they're based on some analysis, and they are also based on some data as well. Thank you so much.
So today I will present the two main arguments showing how geographic differences and implementation problems strongly affect teachers' ability to use artificial intelligence in education, which is the key findings from the geographic location analysis and the implementation challenges analysis. So my first main argument is that geographic location strongly affects teachers' ability to use AI. The first premise, it is demonstrated that teachers in urban areas have much higher AI TPAC scores compared to rural area and remote area teachers. For example, urban teachers have a mean score of 3.67, while rural teachers have 2.98, and remote teachers only 2.45, as you can see in the evidence on the picture. Next, the second premise, the infrastructure index shows the biggest gap. Urban areas score 4.25, but remote areas score just 2.13. From these 2 points, we can conclude that geographic locations create large differences in teachers' AI skills and resources. This sub-argument passes the true premise test because the premises come directly from the table. It also passes the proper form test since the conclusion logically follows the numerical evidence. So coming to the second sub-argument, the second sub-argument focuses on training assess. The first premise shows that training assess scores repeat the same pattern as the urban area is 4.12 and the suburban is 3.65. The rural area is 2.87 and the remote area is 2.01. So the second premise, coming to the second premise, the text also clearly states that these numbers reflect systematic inequalities in professional development opportunities across geographic contexts. Therefore, so we can conclude that geographic location directly affects teachers' access to AI-related training. This sub-argument also passes both true premise and proper form test because the evidence directly supports the reasoning. Coming to the so putting the two sub-arguments together, we have firstly we have the clear differences in AI TPAC infrastructure and training across locations. Secondly, the text states that geographic location is major factor influencing the success of AI integration. So we come to the conclusion that is geographic location is an important factor that shapes teachers' ability to integrate AI. Coming to the next argument, implementation problems limits teachers' use of AI. My second, again, this argument includes two supporting sub-arguments. The first premise reports that the most common problem is infrastructure limitation, which is reported by 75.3% of teachers. In the second premise, it also has a very high severity rating of 4.23, as you can see the evidence on the slide, because the problem is both widespread and severe. So we can conclude that weak infrastructure is a major barrier to using AI in teaching. The sub-argument passes both tests because the evidence is directly stated and the reasoning is valid. Coming to the next part, the second sub-argument, lack of training also prevents effective AI use. The first premise, so it shows that the second major problem is lack of training, which is reported by 69.5% of teachers. The second premise shows that its severity rating is also high as at 4.15. Therefore, we can conclude that the limited training strongly restricts effective AI use. Again, the premises are true, and the argument is logically valid. So we can come to the from these two problems, we can form the main argument. The first premise, the biggest barrier, the biggest problem are infrastructure limitation and lack of training. The second premise, both challenges have high frequency and high severity scores. Therefore, these major problems strongly limit successful AI integration in school. Together, they show that AI integration in education depends heavily on both location and practical challenges. This is the end of my part. The next part will be presented by Trúc.
Okay, finally, we come to the conclusion. So I will begin with an argument, which is finding in the page 10 to 12. Successful implementation of AI require addressing systemic challenge to improve AI competency, ultimately fostering greater student autonomy in learning. The first is sub-argument 1 is AI competency predicts student learning autonomy. Okay, so we got the first premise is that it's a strong predictive relationship between AI and TPAC integration and student learning autonomy. And the second one is AI integration explain 61.2% of the variance in learning autonomy. So coming to the conclusion, therefore, the AI TPAC competencies is a critical predictors of student learning autonomy. As you can see, I give the key details in the research there, which is represent the satisfactory, and you can see the premise one and the first premise and the second premise is directly supported by the provide data. So it's fact and it's past the true premise test. Next is the oh my god, sorry, it's also the sub-argument one, but it's okay. So about the proper form test, the structure is valid if a factor, I mean here is AI TPAC, has a strong statistical relationship with the outcome and explain a majority of its variance, and is logically sound to conclude that the factor is a critical predictor of the outcome. And so this is part of the proper form test. And moving to the second sub-argument, systemic challenge higher AI implementation and AI competency development, and we also got two premise, which is infrastructure limitation at the more frequent and server challenge cited by 75.3% of participants with a high severity rating. And the second premise is lack of training is a major challenge, reported by 69.5 participants with a high severity rating. Therefore, we go to the conclusion that systemic challenges such as infrastructure limitation and lack of training significantly impede AI implementation and the development of AIT-packed competency. And this again also pass the true premise test because premise A is the data I collect in the research, so it's with the fact. Yes, the real number, and the premise true is also the fact provided by the research data. And does this pass the proper form test? In this sub-argument is also pass the proper form test because it's pass the logically form and is a valid argument. And so from the issue sub-argument, we coming to the main argument. A successful AI implementation requires addressing systemic challenge to enhance AI competency for improved student learning autonomy. In this main argument, I also have two premises, which is premise one is the conclusion of the first sub-argument, and premise two is also the conclusion of the second sub-argument, which is AI competency is a critical predictor of student learning autonomy. And the second one is systemic challenge, hinder AI implementation and AI competency development. So I find the conclusion here is therefore, to achieve success, AI integration in Indonesian education and enhance student learning autonomy, policymaker and institution must prioritize addressing these systemic challenges through target intervention such as infrastructure development, comprehensive training, and institutional support. And next, and about the true premise test and the proper form test, I would say that because the premise one and premise two is come from the conclusions of two sub-arguments, so it's also passed the true premise test. And about the proper form test, I would say that the logic is valid and compelling, and the argument is a key necessary condition structure. First is to achieve student autonomy, you need an AI TPAC competency, and the second one is to achieve AI TPAC competency. You must remove the changeling here in systemic changelings, and therefore to achieve student autonomy, you must remove the systemic changelings, and this is the form of the proper form test. Is past the proper form test, and I would say that in summary, the But what is clear, the success of AI in education isn't just about the technologies itself, but it's also about building teacher capacity. And to do that, we must first fix the foundational systemic issue by making the statutory investment. We can unlock full potential of AI to create more autonomous and successful learner. Thank you for your listening. This is the end of our presentation. Rồi, sao nữa?